what an eventful day 9 it was in the 2022 Commonwealth Games for India. There were a lot of medals won. There were some which could have been better results, but which still ended up guaranteeing India medals. And what's more, there were quite a few matches and events that took place which have all but set up medals for India to win in the future. So let us actually go through the major talking points or the major results that took place in day 9 of the 2022 Commonwealth Games. Believe me when I say there was a lot to unpack, but you know, the good thing was that most of the Indian athletes actually ended up pulling through. They've either guaranteed themselves medals or outright won medals. So that's the good part. And let's just go over it sport by sport and let's talk about which were the medals at first, which were the events first that guaranteed us or won us medals on the day. The obvious first thing place to start would of course be wrestling, because you won 6 medals, remember, on day 2 of wrestling. And with the wrestling now done, India have won a total of 12 medals in wrestling. 6 more came on day 9, and of course, 3 of those were gold medals, courtesy of course, Ravi Kumar Dahiya, Vinesh Fogart, and you also had other medals come in. Of course, you had bronze medals come their way. You had Pooja Gehlot, who got a bronze. She ended up losing in the semi-final, but ended up getting a bronze medal. Huh? And there was, of course, Naveen's gold as well. Thank you very much for pointing that out. I had not taken that down in my notes. Then, of course, other bronze medals that came our way. There was Pooja Sehag and, of course, Deepak Nehra, whose bout was, of course, the last, wrestling bout that we had to watch through the day. Of course, and there was a lot of wrestling action. And, of course, there were, of course, other medals that came our way, not just in wrestling. There was, of course, athletics, which, of course, wrestling ended our day pretty much, but the start of our day came from, of course, athletics. So, of course, you had Priyanka Goswami, who finished second in the women's 10,000 meter race walk. Pretty good showing from her, because she ended up clocking a new personal best en route to the silver medal. But she wasn't the only one who was in the mood to break records and break streaks, because there was, of course, Avinash Sable, who in the men's 3000 meter steeplechase put in an absolute masterful race. He ended up actually breaking the dominance of the Kenyans in this particular discipline with his silver medal. And of course, he was the only person on the podium who was not from Kenya, which is massive. And what was even better was that he was actually this close to winning the gold as well. He missed out on it by an absolute whisker, but in the process of him actually winning this medal, he notched not only a new personal best, but also the national record. So massive props to him. Unfortunately for him, he was also subject to take part in another event later in the day. It was the men's 5000 meter final, and he did not actually end up finishing that. Probably, at least, thanks in no small part to the fact that he had another very grueling event to go through prior to that, of course, on the same day. So not easy. He ended up clocking a DNF, but still, the silver medal was historic in many ways, and we are very happy that he ended up getting that. And speaking of historic medals, there was, of course, we have to talk about Bhavina Patel and the para table tennis gold that she ended up winning. For her, this was also not only her first gold medal in any of these major events. It was also India's first ever para table tennis gold medal ever. So massive props to her as well. She ended up fighting very hard to get that win, because there were 2 games, in fact, if you remember, where she was actually trailing, but she ended up getting through, won the match in straight games, and guaranteed India a very historic gold medal. And of course, if we're talking about historic medals, we have to mention the lawn bowls men's fours team. Remember, the women's fours team had won a gold medal, and that was India's first ever medal of any sort in, of course, lawn bowls. They had never won a medal prior to that in the Commonwealth Games. But of course, the men's team also made the final of the men's 4. Unfortunately, they didn't end up registering a win. They lost pretty comprehensively to Northern Ireland, but they still ended up getting a silver medal, which is India's second medal overall in lawn bowls, and also the first silver for the men's team. So still very much the benchmark in terms of India and lawn bowls. So again another historic medal there. And if we're talking about medals that were also medals that were won and medals that were guaranteed, it's impossible not to talk about, of course, the cricket semi-final, of course, the women's T20I match. India ended up pulling off an absolutely thrilling win against England early on in the day, remember. So they not only ended up upsetting one of the favorites for the title, they also ended up upsetting the hosts. So they are now through to the final. So and it would be a massive achievement if they could be crowned, Commonwealth Games champions. The first time of asking, the first time that women's T20I cricket has been included in the Commonwealth Games, would be a massive achievement if India could get that gold medal. Remember, the final is tomorrow. Stay tuned for that. And also, there was plenty of action in the boxing ring. So again, you had 3 boxers who ended up making it to the finals and thus guaranteeing themselves at least a silver medal in the process. So you had Neetu, you had Amit Pangal, and Nikat Zarain. All 3 of them are through to the finals of their respective, their respective bouts. Of course, you had bronze medals also coming your way. You had Husamuddin, you had Jasmine, and you had Rohit as well. All of these ended up getting bronze medals because they lost in their semi-finals. And the rule is, of course, in boxing, if you lose, you're given a semi-final. You lose a semi-final, you're given a bronze. No playoff of any sort. So obviously, that was also very massive. Sagar was another boxer who ended up entering the gold medal bout. So yes, as Dhruv Suri points out, Sagar also. He was in my notes. I ended up missing out his name. Apologies. And of course, if you're talking about medals in which are all but set up to be won, there's also table tennis, which is Dhruv. I have corrected myself. Thank you for pointing that out. There's table tennis as well, where you had some medals which are going to be assured. So you had G. Satyan and Sharad Kamal. Both are into the men's doubles finals, remember. And of course, speaking of men's doubles, you had Sharad Kamal and Shrija Akula, who also ended up making the finals of the mixed doubles. So that's 2 more medals which are guaranteed there. The color of those will, of course, be known in due course. But right now, we know for a fact that there are at least 2 more medals coming India's way. And of course, if we're talking about medals that are set to be, won in due course, you have to mention badminton, because in badminton, it was again a very action-packed day. The best news about it was that you had PV Sindhu, Lakshya Sen, and Kidambi Shrikant all make it to their respective semi-finals. In fact, if you're looking at the men's singles side of things, it could very well be an all-Indian final similar to what it was in 2018 in the women's singles side, where you had PV Sindhu and Saina Nehwal face off. There is very much a possibility in the men's singles side of badminton this year that we could be set for a Lakshya Sen versus Kidambi Shrikant final. Boy, if that were to happen, I'd be very excited. And of course, there were other medal contenders that will be, in fact, other contenders who would be up there as well. If we're looking at doubles, Satvik Saraj, Ranki Reddy, and Chirag Shetty, they also are through to the semis, so they're 1 step away from a medal too. So are Trisa Jolly and Gayatri Gopichand. They're through to the women's double semis. Unfortunately, Akarshi Kashyap ended up losing out to Scotland's Christy Gilmore, but that was the only blemish in what was an otherwise very good day for India's badminton stars. And well, that is it. That was all the major events that India had today. So, of course, very eventful, jam-packed day, a lot of action. And we're expecting tomorrow to be no different. Plenty of medal events and plenty of hope, if you're an Indian sports fan, that we will indeed be getting more medals. So thank you all for joining us through the day, and not just for this video. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe. Leave us a comment, tap the bell icon if indeed you want to know every single time we're going live or are uploading a new video. Please don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram as well. Last but not least, download the SportsTak app so that you have all of these breaking news updates at your fingertips. From my side and from Sports Today, goodbye, good night, Vanakkam.